There are 168 hours in a week. We go to church for 1 hour. What about the other 167?
Cue this podcast. We're here to bring the church to you the rest of the week. I'm David Vogel, the Director of Communication here at Central Community Church.
I'm Corey Brodel, the Director of Community. We've been to the 1 hour in church. Now welcome to the other 167.
Well, Pastor George, it is so good to have you back on the podcast.
Thank you.
You were here a couple weeks ago, and we just liked you so much, we asked you to come again.
The reviews were amazing.
They were.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Many 5 stars.
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But we're just a couple days out from Christmas now. And as the worship arts pastor here at church, we thought you might have some good stories that you could share with us about Christmas pasts.
Christmas past. Yes, there are stories, and there are stories. And some should not be shared. Others maybe. One that it did not happen to me, but it happened to a friend up in Portland, Oregon, and he does this huge singing Christmas tree on the stage of their concert hall. And so people from all churches join, and they sing on this tree. This puts 150 people on the platform. And then there's an orchestra in the pit and whatnot. And so they finished up dress rehearsal, and the next night is the performance. Interestingly enough, they did everything but close the curtains and open them. So anyway, it comes the night at the performance, and the curtain is closed. Everything happens. And they have suspended angels that are on both sides of the platform. Well, this curtain begins to open, and it brushes by one of the angels, and it starts her spinning.
Oh, no.
And so they're opening this whole thing, and everybody is hoo-ha. You know, the tree is blinking, and the people, you know, and it's just awesome. But this angel keeps spinning, and she can't stop, of course, because she's on a line. So
I don't think I want to know where this is going to
So
go.
anyway, she became airsick.
Oh.
And so anyway, all over the orchestra, spinning, all of this kind of, so you can imagine anyway.
That was how they
had a
started
cleanup.
it.
That's right.
Yeah, they could start over.
So this is not probably the best story.
Well, the angels bring good tidings of great joy. He just didn't know they were going to be so chunky.
That's right.
Oh.
Yes, it was a flying experience. So anyway.
Well, if we still have listeners after that.
We've lost them all. They're running for the Pepto-Bismol and Tums right now.
Oh.
All right, give us another one.
Well, another one happened to me when I was a child, and we had a pastor and his wife, and they had actually been pastors here at Pawnee Avenue Church, our church here in Wichita at one time, and they always did the live nativity, and it was done against a background with narration that they did and music, but all the characters would come, and you have the live manger scene outside. People would drive up in their cars, so they could get out and stand on the curb and watch this happen. Well, behind our church there in Idaho, we had this little hill, and up there they decided to have every year this live nativity that the community could come. Well, you could only get about 10 cars out there anyway, and it was so interesting, but we thought we were really giving something, and, you know, there were always 10 cars out there, and we did it 3 or 4 times a night. Well, this one Christmas, they didn't have a donkey, so we had a burro in our barn. Juniper was her name. And
I love that.
Yes. So Juniper, she had her own personality, and she was just different. Let's put it that way. She was born different. And Juniper was the donkey. So on this one particular evening, cars are out front. We start, and, you know, we have Mary and Joseph come out, and she is riding, and Mary is riding the burro. And Mary is probably she was the most beautiful girl in our youth group. And every boy, of course, wanted to date Mary.
So you were hoping that Juniper was going to do you a favor.
That's right. But Juniper that night decided, she was not going to behave. So all of a sudden, she started running with Mary screaming. And all I could see, she was bouncing down the hill and away. The cars who were watching, they were laughing. The horns were honking. Mary is on top of Juniper, the burro, and they didn't get her stopped for at least 4.5 blocks because they finally got her stopped in front of the hospital in which I was born, which was about 4.5 blocks away.
Wow.
So that was a Christmas that I will never forget.
That was before. How long ago was that?
Oh, my goodness.
You were a child, is that what you said?
I was, right. I was
so
probably
it was before,
12, 13 years
before
old.
cell phones and cameras. So
that's how you go
nobody
viral.
captured that moment.
Right. So it was a runaway burro with Mary. And that was quite a year.
That sounds like the start of a new Christmas song, I think.
Another story is I was about 10 years old, and it came time to open gifts. And we each usually got a couple of gifts. We were not the most extravagant family. We had to be very frugal, and we lived in such a way that we did not. We always had food, and we had lots of love in our home, but we were a poor family in comparison to many others. And so we opened our gifts, and the first gift I opened was a sweater, which was nice. And my brothers and sisters, I was the oldest, and they were getting their gifts, toys, and all those kinds of things. It was quite a happy time. And then, interestingly, I opened my box. It was quite heavy. It was a metronome. And I thought, okay, I'm in music, but a metronome for a Christmas gift, I can't play with it. It didn't have special meaning. And I remember that Christmas was a weird Christmas, because how many times can you turn it on and it clicks? And it was when metronomes were just starting to be electronic. Up to that point, they were on a pendulum, and they would click back and forth. And this was and so my parents probably paid quite a bit for it. And I needed a metronome, probably, they thought, and I probably did. But it did not seem like a very, what should I say, a Christmas when everybody else was playing with toys and stuff that they wanted, but I got this metronome. And how do you take a metronome to school and say, this is what I
Show
got
and
for
tell.
Christmas, So anyway, that was another thing, which taught me some lessons about it isn't about what you receive, it's the heart of it. And so that meant a lot. It's stayed with me for quite a bit. Christmases have different stories, and every Christmas is different. This year in particular is going to be different for a lot of us. And it really comes down, and as I was thinking, one of the stories that really struck me was the first year we did the Singing Christmas Tree down at Century 2.
How many years ago was that?
We were in the convention hall. That was in 87.
Okay.
People still talk about that. I never got to experience it, but
I
people
wasn't born
around
yet,
here.
so-
Oh, you're a baby.
You're gonna hit me, aren't
Stop.
you?
Yes,
We gotta
yes.
have this plexiglass here.
Yes. People were thinking that we did not have plexiglass behind us. They got me the last time. They said, you all weren't wearing masks. You didn't. And I said, there is plexiglass between us. Oh, okay. So now we
do
know.
what we can to
Yep.
protect each other, don't we? Yeah.
So anyway, I was directing this whole thing, and we had about 150 people on the tree. We had drive-by cars. We had our sleigh that came by with a horse, and was pulled, and we had 3 girls in the sleigh singing White Christmas, all these things. And then the second half was the story of Jesus and all, and the birth. And the final scene was the manger scene. And all I wanted was one spot on the baby Jesus. That's all in that huge convention hall. That's all that should be seen. And so I'm conducting, and I have a microphone on my head, and I kept saying, I was conducting the orchestra, and we were singing our closing song. And I said, get the spotlight on baby Jesus. And I kept saying that over and over. And finally, this voice was heard, well, what the blankety blank, who is baby Jesus? And it, at first, I thought, and then I thought, how many people
Wow.
are wondering today, who is baby Jesus? Where is baby Jesus to be found? He didn't know the story.
Wow.
He didn't know that the baby was actually born in a manger, and that the scene of the manger, how many people don't connect the dots? And how many more millions of people are alive today than back then, even in 87? And maybe that is our calling this Christmas, is to call people back to that.
Wow.
And then last Christmas, since I have one more story.
Oh, please.
Do you have time?
Please, go for it.
It was in February when we were able to visit my sister in Oklahoma. She's special needs. She had spinal meningitis when she was 18 months old. She ran a fever of 104, 105 for 2 or 3 days, and the doctors back then just said, just keep her comfortable. They didn't put her in and pack her with ice like they would today, or have the medicines to contract that. She was walking, running. She was this vivacious little girl up until 18 months. And after that, she had to relearn to walk. She had to basically learn to talk again. She had some impairment. It left her with the mind of an 8-year-old.
Wow.
And my parents went through so much in terms of her life. And so I'm kind of her guardian, her verbal guardian. And she's in a special needs place in Oklahoma. She said, George, I have a Christmas gift for you that I painted. And this was the painting.
That's very sweet. Very sweet.
If you're just listening to the podcast, I encourage you to get on the video and look at this. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And it for me depicted what God does with our paintings, with our scribbles, what he does with our abilities. And for her, this was the best she could do. And I will always have it hung in my office or in my home. Because this was truly a gift that she put together. And we always wonder, does God really love us? Does he love us no matter? I remember the Beatitudes where it said, blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. My sister will inherit the earth, and she will inherit heaven, because she is content with whatever she has. She never complains.
Wow.
And I complain a lot, in my spirit or in my thoughts. I'm always thinking, well, okay, if I had done this better, or if I had, it would be nice the what ifs. And yet my sister is not about the what ifs. She's just about the what is.
Wow.
And for every moment that we're together, that is important to her. And this painting, I have some paintings that, big artists have done, or I have representations of their art. But this is a heart painting.
Yeah.
And God loves our hearts. And he loves us. And this Christmas, I would say that with all of the crazy things that happen, and this year especially, if we can help people know who Jesus is, plus we are content with where we are in life, and to know that whatever we do, God loves us, this Christmas can be special.
Yeah.
And so as I look at this painting, no parent takes down something that their children have drawn that they put on the refrigerator. They are precious. And I think that's the same thing with God with us. And this Christmas, God loves us.
Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking back to the story that you said where he said, "Who is baby Jesus?" And being the 23rd, we have the opportunity, because this is Christmas Eve, and we have a service tonight at 6:00. So we have the opportunity to share this, and we can do that through Facebook. We can do that through our online, our website. But you never know who's going to watch that, who is wondering that same thing.
Yeah.
Who is baby Jesus? So if you're watching, tune in tonight at 6. It's our Christmas Eve, and then tomorrow we've got Christmas Eve, and it is at 4 and 6.
Yep.
So share that out with your friends, because we need to reach the lost that don't know who baby Jesus is.
Great. Thank you.
So thank you for being here, Pastor George.
Oh, you're welcome. It's always a pleasure. And it's easy to be with you folks.
Well, we're fun people. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty amazing. And Blake behind the camera over there.
Yep.
So,
Well, thank you, Pastor George.
you're welcome.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Merry Christmas to you all.
Thanks for listening to 167. Please leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or wherever you're listening from.
And to keep up with everything at Central Community Church, follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And if you want to watch us record this podcast live, find us on YouTube.
We think the 167 hours between church services are so important, and we hope you'll share this episode with your friends. Join us next week.